Return of the Living Dead 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most talked about horror revivals in recent years, bringing a legendary cult title back into the spotlight with a fresh but faithful vision. Rather than simply remaking what audiences have already seen, this new chapter appears focused on expanding the mythology while preserving the chaotic energy, dark comedy, and unapologetic gore that define the franchise's identity. From early creative discussions and production direction, the film positions itself as both a tribute and a reinvention, a continuation that understands why the original became iconic while daring to explore new thematic territory. The core spirit of the project revolves around the unique tone that set this universe apart from traditional zombie stories. Unlike slow, silent undead driven purely by instinct, these creatures have always possessed a disturbing awareness, blending horror with absurdity in a way that feels unpredictable and dangerous. The 2026 installment seems intent on restoring that unsettling balance, where the undead are not just mindless threats but chaotic forces capable of dark humor and shocking violence. This tonal mixture ensures that tension never settles into predictability. Laughter can quickly turn into terror, and comfort can shatter in seconds. The story introduces a new generation confronted by an outbreak that feels both horrifyingly familiar and disturbingly modern. Rather than isolating events to a single location, the narrative suggests a wider scale, exploring how misinformation, panic, and institutional failure amplify the crisis. The outbreak is not just biological. It becomes psychological and social. Fear spreads faster than infection, and trust begins to erode among survivors. This layered conflict gives the film emotional stakes beyond survival. Examining how people react when order collapses and chaos takes control. At the center of the narrative is a small group of characters thrown together by circumstance rather than choice. Each represents a different response to crisis: denial, aggression, humor, fear, and reluctant courage. Their interactions are expected to drive much of the film's tension as alliances form and fracture under pressure. Rather than relying solely on spectacle, the script emphasizes character reactions, highlighting how desperation exposes hidden flaws and unexpected strengths. In this world, survival demands not only physical resilience but emotional adaptability. Visually, the film appears to embrace practical effects as a key component of its horror aesthetic. Reports surrounding production suggest a commitment to tactile gore and detailed creature design that honors the franchise's legacy. The undead are not polished or stylized. They are grotesque, decaying, and disturbingly expressive. This physical realism intensifies the impact of every encounter. Close-quarters confrontations are expected to feel claustrophobic and raw, with lighting and camera movement amplifying unpredictability. Darkness becomes more than absence of light. It becomes a canvas for dread, thematically. The movie leans into commentary about consumer culture, authority, and humanity's tendency to underestimate its own creations. The origins of the outbreak tie into institutional secrecy and corporate irresponsibility, reinforcing the idea that horror often stems from human error rather than supernatural forces. By framing the catastrophe as avoidable yet inevitable due to negligence, the narrative underscores a familiar but chilling message. The greatest threat may be our refusal to learn from past mistakes. Sound design is anticipated to play a major role in shaping atmosphere. The unsettling blend of distorted voices, distant sirens, and sudden bursts of chaos creates a sensory environment where safety never feels secure. Music likely oscillates between high-energy punk-inspired rhythms and eerie silence, reflecting the franchise's signature tonal shifts. Silence becomes particularly powerful in moments before attacks, stretching tension to its limit before explosive violence disrupts it. Character arcs are expected to carry surprising emotional weight. While the franchise is known for its irreverent tone, this installment seems poised to deepen the humanity within its chaos. Survivors confront guilt over who they leave behind, struggle with moral compromises, and question whether survival alone is enough justification for their actions. Humor remains present, but it is sharpened by tragedy, making moments of levity feel earned rather than distracting. Midway through the film, escalation becomes unavoidable. Containment efforts fail, misinformation spreads, and internal conflict threatens to destroy the group from within. The undead adapt in unexpected ways, demonstrating resilience that forces survivors to rethink their strategies. This shift from reactive survival to desperate innovation fuels the second half of the narrative, pushing characters beyond their comfort zones and into ethically complex territory. One of the more intriguing creative decisions involves balancing nostalgia with innovation. Visual callbacks and tonal references acknowledge the franchise's history without leaning entirely on repetition. Longtime fans are likely to recognize subtle nods woven into dialogue and set design, while new audiences can engage with the story without prior knowledge. This balance ensures accessibility while preserving authenticity. The climax builds toward a confrontation that is less about defeating the undead and more about confronting the consequences of human arrogance. Attempts to contain the outbreak expose deeper systemic flaws, forcing characters to accept that quick solutions are illusions. Survival becomes an act of collective effort rather than individual heroism. Sacrifice and cooperation replace selfish instinct, reshaping the emotional trajectory of the narrative rather than delivering a neatly resolved ending. The film appears to leave room for ambiguity. The outbreak's containment may feel temporary, raising questions about recurrence and responsibility. This open-ended conclusion reinforces the franchise's underlying cynicism while offering just enough hope to keep audiences invested. The message resonates clearly. Ignoring systemic failure invites repetition. Audience anticipation surrounding this revival stems from curiosity about how modern filmmaking techniques will reinterpret classic horror energy. Fans of practical gore, dark humor, and chaotic storytelling are eager to see whether the film can capture the anarchic spirit that defined its predecessors. Conversations often revolve around whether the balance between satire and horror will remain intact, a delicate equilibrium that defines the series' uniqueness. Production emphasis on ensemble chemistry suggests that character interaction remains central. Rather than focusing solely on large-scale destruction, the narrative anchors itself in personal choices. The outbreak functions as a catalyst, exposing existing fractures within relationships and institutions. Emotional vulnerability becomes as important as physical defense. As discussions continue to build, Return of the Living Dead, 2026, stands as a reminder that horror thrives on reinvention. By embracing both its cult heritage and contemporary anxieties, the film aims to resonate across generations. It taps into timeless fears, loss of control, societal breakdown, mortality, while injecting them with irreverent energy and sharp social commentary. Ultimately, this installment is not merely about resurrecting the dead. It is about resurrecting a tone, chaotic, satirical, unapologetically bold. It challenges audiences to confront uncomfortable truths wrapped in grotesque spectacle. Through layered characters, relentless pacing, and a willingness to blend horror with biting humor, the film seeks to carve a new chapter in a legacy built on fearless creativity. Whether viewers come for nostalgia, gore, or thematic depth, the experience promises intensity that lingers long after the final scene fades to black.